Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, we are awaiting the arrival. We're told it would happen potentially at any moment of Air Force One coming back to Joint Base Andrews in Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C. Air Force One, and this is very unusual, turning around due to what the White House is saying is a minor electrical issue. We're trying to find out exactly what it is. The White House, again, saying that they did it out of an abundance of caution. Needless to say, it's the President of the United States. You don't take any chances. But apparently there was some sort of technical issue, we're told, over an hour after takeoff, and they felt they had to turn around and get a backup plane. So that is what they're doing. They're going to be coming back to Andrews, and then we'll have to be switching planes. The question is one ready immediately? I'm sure that they are scurrying right now. Is it big enough? Does it have enough security? What is the backup? There are a lot of questions tonight, and can it carry the full entourage? You have to split it up. Obviously, the president clearly gets the priority of the most secure and safest plane. They do always have different backups and different mechanisms, often different Air Force Ones, remember? So you don't know which one is the real Air Force One. They do that also with the helicopter, with Marine One. Often you don't know which is the one that President Trump is in. So there are different sort of decoys and other planes that are used potentially as a backup. And the question is, do they have enough safety, security, all those other issues? For sure they do, just in case of something like this. But I can tell you, I've been covering the White House a long time and spent a long time in Washington also as senior correspondent for Fox in Washington covering White House. And I can't remember when Air Force One had to turn back due to electrical issues, to any issue. I can't remember when Air Force One ever turned back. So we have to find out exactly what it is, how serious it is, and are we finding out all the details? Is that all it is just a mechanical issue? Could there be something more serious, or are they just being overly cautious? That's what the White House says, and that certainly makes a lot of sense. And of course, we want the safety of the president and his team to be first and foremost. So we'll keep you posted on that. But this is an extraordinary moment, hearing that Air Force One had some sort of mechanical issue, so much so that they had to turn around and now they have to get a new replacement one. It will certainly delay President Trump's arrival. When you look at the president's schedule, it's like down to the minute. You know, when you're taking off and all the different issues associated with it. All the meetings and all the other things. He was addressing the World Economic Forum there in Switzerland. So his schedule was, pretty tight. And I believe he was only staying a few hours there. And then I think coming back to the United States. So this will certainly delay things. Obviously, everybody will reshuffle things for the president of the United States, the leader of the free world. But this is a very, very big deal. And as soon as we get more information as to what exactly went wrong with Air Force One and what's going to happen in terms of this replacement and so many other things, we'll let you know. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Meantime, today, President Trump talking about all the different protests that have taken place and ravaged Minneapolis. And one of the things he talked about was that horrible ordeal where those activists were storming the church in Minneapolis. And here is William Kelly. He is one of the protest organizers. There's some new audio and video today coming out. And you have to hear this because this guy is just like, he's nuts. You should hear what he's saying. He's like saying, Attorney General Bondi, go ahead and charge me. I don't care. He's trying to bait everybody. Listen, this is the organizer of the protest.
Don't let our I mean, what we're seeing around this country is they're using their political influence to attack people that disagree with them. They're going to come at me with charges, and I'm not scared of that. There's no base for these charges. I did not block them from, their service. They welcomed us in. They never asked us to leave. The police never came in and removed us. So we didn't stop their service. In fact, people were still praying the entire time. The music was still playing the entire time. So, Pam Bondi, you want to come and arrest me? You want to come and give me charges? So be it. And for all the people giving me death threats, threatening my life, kill me. Go ahead, kill me. Because you know what? As Fred Hampton said, you can kill the revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution.
Does that sound like a guy who has any regrets? None whatsoever. Meantime, also, Mayor Mamdani of New York, it pains me to say that, but Mayor Mamdani of New York, it's still like a bad dream. He was on The View, and you should hear some of the horrible things that he was saying about ICE. He was asked, what are you going to do if President Trump cuts off federal funds to cities like New York? Because Mamdani's doubling, tripling, quadrupling down, saying that under no circumstance will he allow local NYPD to cooperate with ICE. And then today he went even further. Here he is, the sitting mayor of New York, and he says that he agrees with all these other loony lefties that are talking about abolishing ICE. He said he agrees with them. Listen to what he said to the ladies of The View.
Let's talk about the unfortunate situation unfolding in Minnesota since the fatal ICE shooting of Renee Good, which you bluntly called a murder. The Trump administration is reportedly readying troops for deployment and investigating the Democratic mayor of Minneapolis and the governor of Minnesota for impeding immigration agents. How are you reacting to everything that you are seeing? And importantly, do you worry they'll target New York and you?
Look, I think first, I don't know how else to describe what we saw in Minnesota. People ask me, why did I say the word murder? I asked them to look at that video and tell me what they would call it. Right. And we are being asked to not believe our own eyes. It's time to be truthful with people. It is terrifying to see what's happening there. And it's terrifying to see all of this happening in the name of public safety. And I've said this directly to the president, that these ICE raids, they are cruel, they are inhumane, they do nothing to deliver that public safety. Right. In fact, what they do is leave a sense of fear amongst so many. Correct. And, I represent a city of 8.5 million people. More than 3 million New Yorkers are immigrants. I'm one of them. And what we've seen this administration do is transform the very places that we used to associate with the American dream. 26 Federal Plaza, you go there, your citizenship interview, you hope you can start to call yourself an American. Now it's the sign of the American nightmare. It's where people go there for what should be a routine immigration check-in. They don't know if they're going to get detained or deported. And so my job is to stand up for those New Yorkers, stand up for every New Yorker, and to say that we're going to use every tool at our disposal to ensure that what we're seeing elsewhere is not what we see in this city.
What if he...
Wow. And here he is going even further. You heard that he said the murder of Renee Nicole Good. Murder is what he describes it, that the ICE agent just kind of in cold blood murdered her. And then here he is talking about abolishing ICE.
I want to know where you come down on abolishing ICE and if you believe that ICE has any legitimate law enforcement role.
I am in support of abolishing ICE, and I'll tell you why. Because what we see is an entity that has no interest in fulfilling its stated reason to exist. We're seeing a government agency that is supposed to be enforcing some kind of immigration law, but instead what it's doing is terrorizing people no matter their immigration status, no matter the facts of the law, no matter the facts of the case. And I'm tired of waking up every day and seeing a new image of someone being dragged out of a car, dragged out of their home, dragged out of their life. What we need to see is humanity. And there is a way to care about immigration in this city and in this country with a sense of humanity. What we're seeing from ICE is not it, and we have not seen that from them in a long, long time.
So not only does he make the crazy comments, the lemmings in the audience are like, wow, how great, let's abolish ICE. Let's live in a world with no ICE, no immigration and customs enforcement. That's a really scary situation. And boy, oh boy, are we in for a tough haul, guys. Let's go to Charlie in Cherry Hill on line 1. Go ahead, Charlie, your thoughts.
My thoughts are about the Minneapolis thing and about the most recent disruption that Don Lemon led at the church. I hope this is what I think is happening because some of the Democrat politicians started to retreat from that, is that perhaps that this is starting to irritate and annoy regular, ordinary people who aren't as interested in politics, who don't follow politics all the time. And if this turns them off, it might turn them against Democrats in the midterm elections. At least that's what I certainly hope, because if Democrats take over the House of Representatives, they'll just be impeaching Trump nonstop. And if they take over the Senate, they'll be thwarting all of his initiatives. So, I mean, I hope that the left, I hope that the radical behavior, I hope their extremist behavior, and I really don't want to see any ICE agents get hurt or killed. That's what I'm afraid of happening. I pray for that every night. I pray for the safety of all our law enforcement. But maybe these radical nut jobs, that's what it's going to take to cause the light bulb to go off in enough American voters' heads to say, wait a minute, look, I may not like Trump or I may disagree with Trump, but these people are nuts, and it'll hopefully make people vote sensibly in the midterms. And I was wondering what your thoughts are about that.
You know, that's an interesting point, Charlie. Actually, I think, you're right, because I think I have friends on all sides of the political aisle, and they are in shock at some of these comments. I mean, who goes out there and says, I'm going to abolish law enforcement, federal law enforcement? Mamdani is saying that. I'm going to defund police, NYPD. Mamdani's saying that. I mean, all of this rhetoric, it's so crazy and it's so loony and it's so dangerous. And even the average person doesn't like to see these people screaming. We just played that guy, William Kelly. I mean, his rhetoric is just so downright incendiary. It's so frightening to hear him. And I agree. I think it is turning off people, and it's going so far left. The problem is sometimes, and like you said, we could see the results coming, in the midterms, but sometimes you have to go so far in one direction before things sort of reverse course. So I guess the big issue is, have we gone far enough with some of these locations like New York, like Seattle, that also has, the woman there, too, who's the mayor, who's a loony lefty. You've got all these that are like extremists that even many, common sense Democrats say, we don't recognize those individuals and their policies, but they're in important cities. So, New York's the biggest city in America, and you got a hardcore. And then you're in New Jersey, right, Charlie?
Yes.
Okay, so now look at what happened in in New Jersey. I mean, there are a lot of things that are happening with sanctuary cities there.
Right. Mickey Sherrill will be our governor in New Jersey and Abigail Spanberg in Virginia. And they both campaigned as moderates. And one of the first things they want to do is get rid of ICE. They want to ban gas-powered lawnmowers and leaf blowers and stuff like that. They're anything but moderate. But it's what you just said. How far does the rubber band have to go before it snaps back and the voters come to their senses? And because if the Democrats take over the House of Representatives, it's going to be impeach Trump. We know, because the Democrats have said that. They're going to try and get rid of ICE. They're going to impeach all the different cabinet members.
Exactly. They're going to go after Noam. They're going to. By the way, Charlie, you know what I keep thinking about too? Can you imagine? Think about that. We were a heartbeat away from, if Kamala Harris had won and Tim Walz. I don't think you and I would recognize this country. Just think about how we really dodged catastrophe by that.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And have you heard about the news report on Fox that I heard this morning? Is with Kamala Harris when they were doing the vetting process of the vice president, they actually asked Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, have you ever been a double agent for Israel? Do you know anyone who's a double agent for Israel? Because he's Jewish. And he was rightfully offended by the question. And they said, not Kamala Harris, but the woman who was vetting him, the Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, they said, well, I have to ask. And my question is, well, why do you have to ask that question? Well, why?
Well, and you know darn well why, because they clearly had an issue with him being Jewish. And if you look at the fact that they ended up with Tim Walz instead, they had to, I believe, they were doing it, first of all, to try to turn him off because they were concerned. Remember, they had all the pro-Palestinian protesters that they were appeasing at that time, Kamala Harris and the others. And I think they were trying to do anything they could to kind of turn him off because he was clearly the most capable. But somebody who didn't like their policies that were clearly anti-Semitic in many ways. I mean, some of the things that they said, keep going. We hear you. We hear the protesters who are shouting those vile things. So I think any way to push off Josh Shapiro was the way to do it. And Josh Shapiro, putting it in the book, he's coming out swinging. It'll be interesting to see. He may run for Democrat in the next go round. And he certainly is a qualified, capable individual. We'll talk about that much more, obviously, in the months and years to come. That's for sure, Charlie. Charlie, great to hear from you and your perspective. 1-800-848-9222. We'll continue, everybody, after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And Air Force One has now landed at the Andrews Air Force Base. This is Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland, just outside of the nation's capital. After we're told that it was en route, about an hour, 20 minutes in the air after takeoff, headed towards Davos, Switzerland. And now the plane has come back. The White House is saying that there's some sort of minor electrical issue. We're going to try to find out some details. So far, the president himself, I do not believe, has gotten off the plane. But they are clearly unloading the plane and checking to find out what happened. We're going to be talking to Brigadier General Blaine Holt. He is a former Air Force accident investigator. He's going to join us live in just about 3 or 4 minutes. You definitely want to stay tuned for that. This is a big deal.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, just moments ago, Air Force One returned safely back to Joint Base Andrews in Maryland, which is just outside of Washington, D.C. It had to do a sudden U-turn, turnaround, about an hour 20, about 1 hour, 20 minutes after takeoff from that location. It was en route to Davos, Switzerland. And the reports from the White House now coming out that it had a minor electrical issue, and out of an abundance of caution, because, of course, it is carrying the President of the United States and many members of his administration, many Secret Service members, many others, as you can imagine, travel with the President. They say at an abundance of caution because of this, quote, minor electrical issue, they suddenly dramatically turned the plane around. Only soon after takeoff. There are still many hours left. And now it has just landed moments ago at Joint Base Andrews. So as soon as we get any comments, we'll bring that to you live. We're waiting to see if the President of the United States will make any comments, if maybe Caroline Leavitt, as White House press secretary, anybody traveling with the president will alert the press because this was big news that just broke moments ago. And joining us now to talk about all of this is Brigadier General Blaine Holt. He's a retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General, former C-17 combat commander, also former U.S. Deputy Military Representative to NATO, and also the perfect person to speak to tonight because he was an Air Force accident investigator. General Holt, what do you think happened here? And I can just tell you, and you probably know even better than I do, I covered the White House for many years. Personally, covering the presidents at that time. Obviously, I've covered them many decades since as well. And I cannot remember a time where Air Force One had to turn around and go back mid-flight. Your thoughts about how unusual this is and what could have happened here?
Well, thanks for having me. First off, let me say that when I was flying C-17s, this is the exact same command that has the responsibility for Air Force One. So I'm very familiar with the crews. I'm very familiar with the personnel, their regulations, what they do to keep the president on reliable travel and safe travel. With that said, I've got the hair standing up on the back of my neck because it is so rare with such a highly maintained aircraft, albeit 40 years old, that you see a mission turnaround like this for Air Force One. What we know so far is that they had an electrical issue. AP News is now reporting through their own sourcing that it was the lighting went out in the press's cabin where the press resides in the airplane. And so they turned back. You might think, well, you can go without the lights, but in that instance, it's really the 747 is an electric airplane. You get one unexplained electrical occurrence. Bravo to the pilots for saying, well, we don't know what else is going to go wrong while we're going across the Atlantic, so why don't we just call it here and get the president onto the second Air Force One, which was they're cross-loading and transloading right now. They'll be pushing off here very shortly into the other aircraft, but it does stress the need for a new Air Force One. It's just that when you overlay this event with the seriousness and the gravity of his Davos speech tomorrow, everybody's just up in arms going, whoa, 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 whoa. We're already worried about our president going to this thing. What's this about?
Yeah, no, you're right. And that's the frightening thing there. And think about just also the history, as you know, Blaine, with what's happened with this president. I mean, we look at what happened in Butler. We look at what happened, in Florida with the crazy guy. Just there's a massive security around President Trump. And sadly, there's been these other attempts against him. Not that this is an attempt, but it sends chills when something goes wrong. You go, uh-oh, what's going on here? Could this be something nefarious? And we're thankful that it seems it is just some sort of electrical issue. But you're right. The hair on your neck stands up when you hear something like this. And he's on the way to a very important, speech where he's having a lot of divide with NATO. The stakes are very high. And just being the president of the United States is the most protected and the most, sadly, one of the biggest targets in the world. So that's going through your mind with security. And the last thing also, given that this does appear to just be some sort of technical issue, the last thing they want, as you just brought up, is some sort of bigger issue. Like you brought up, explain sort of the fact that you were saying the lighting went out in the press cabin. And I've been in that press cabin. It's a little, I can imagine it being a little bit like, uh-oh, what's going on, Right. And many of them maybe were staying up through the night. I did many times, staying up through the night when you're covering the president, covering up covering individuals. Might be working through the night, and then something happens like this. But you're saying that it could have also signified maybe some other issue, correct? That it maybe was a sign of another sort of technical issue, and that was just one reflection of it, and they didn't want it to cavalcade.
Right. When flying the C-17 around the world, another big heavy jet, when you have an electrical type occurrence or any really malfunction on the airplane, you have to be able to explain why that happened. If you can't explain it and you can't trap it down to the system that was errant, then that means you have an unexplained occurrence maintenance-wise, and that means, well, how do I know something else is not about to occur? All these systems, very, very complex. They all interrelate very differently. There are millions of lines of software code on these jets. And, we used to joke in the C-17, sometimes just fly back, park it, turn it off, turn it back on again, and you're fine. But this is a very serious deal because, again, the gravity of the mission, the war of words across the Atlantic over issues like Greenland, the wars, all of this stuff, and the rancor in the speeches that we've seen at the World Economic Forum. If I had my druthers, he would either do the speech from Washington or he would be billeted on Air Force One as it was in Davos and eating American food because he doesn't have a whole lot of fans there as he takes down some of these globalists. But, our hearts and our prayers are with the president. He should have the very best travel he can have. And I'm glad that our United States Air Force is making the right calls on these missions, and they're taking him over to a very good airplane, and he'll get back on his way.
Now, explain also, you brought up it's a 40-year-old plane, and he obviously has talked about also sort of the new Air Force One, I believe. Mm-hmm. Wasn't there that plane that he was getting from the Qataris, right? That's
the Band-Aid. That's the interim airplane. That 747-8 will be, they're retrofitting it right now to meet the security requirements that the president has to have on those airplanes. It's not your grandpa's 747. These 747s need to be kitted out to deal with a lot of contingency situations. And so that will be ready fairly soon, I believe. And then ultimately, the Boeing Aircraft Company will be delivering what they've been contracted for, the next two Air Force One aircraft.
Is it possible? I mean, I'm sitting here looking from a layman's perspective, Blaine Holt, that you've got a plane, it's 40 years old, and you can understand how there could be issues. But how could something like that, shouldn't that have been noticed in like a maintenance check? You would think that every single thing, when you're dealing with the president of the United States, you don't just double check things, you triple check things.
You do, and those aircraft, I can tell you, get a once-over. In order to be a maintainer on that unit, to be assigned to Air Force One, you have to be at the very top of your game, and we're talking PhD level engineering. This is really the top rung that we have, and so that's why the hair stands even more up on my back, because you're like, wow, that is very unusual for something like that to happen. So we all have to be cautious and careful. But I also, from a flying perspective, let's say you're the Secret Service or the security people, last thing you want is a blacked out cabin where you can't see what's going on. That comes into play as well. And so I think the crew made an excellent conservative decision here, and they nipped it in the bud right away. They made a quick decision. The aircraft had just gotten over the Atlantic Ocean. They're like, you know what, we got to turn back. And they made the right call. And now they're going to get a great airplane. And we all just have to wish the president well on this very, very historic mission that he's going to go on.
Yeah, now he'll be a few hours late, and that the president, it's like clockwork when you're dealing with the president, and he was supposed to deliver this big speech about the Board of Peace there. And the last thing you want is to be dealing with a plane issue in a foreign country. That's the other thing, too. Remember, even though it's Switzerland, you still don't want to be in a country like that and having to be dealing with some sort of mechanical issue. This backup plane, how much does it mirror Air Force One? And is there any difference to the new plane that he's going to get on from size and technical?
No, should be a mirror image. There's two of them, and this one serves as the spare, and sometimes it serves as the front line. It just depends on which bird's in training status or maintenance status. And so really, once the pilot called back and said, we're turning back, we've got a problem, that means, all the bells go off in that hangar, and the entire team gets out, fires that airplane up, gets it out to a parking spot, warms it up, runs its checks, and has it standing by for the president if he has to turn back and transload. And that's what they're doing right now. So the slowest pole in the tent, or the longest pole in the tent, if you will, is just getting the gear of everybody over to the new airplane and getting that all situated. And they're already flight planned out, and they'll just fly away from there. The C-17s, the package that carries the Beast, all those other things, they are not turning back. They all just go right on to their destination, and all of that stuff will be waiting on the president when he arrives.
So, as usual, the Beast usually always gets there ahead. It's part of the advance. like you're talking about. So that's always an interesting issue, too. You're right. All the famous presidential limo, bulletproof, bomb-proof, everything-proof. And you're right, that goes on the separate one. How long does it take to do that kind of a turnaround when you're dealing with the president of the United States and all those people? Like you got the members of the press there. You've got many members of his administration. How long does that take a joint Air Force, Joint Base Andrews, as it's called now?
Well, you're only limited by your VIPs. They're the ones that determine that. The Air Force will be ready to fly like within, 40 minutes of them landing. So once all of the VIPs, Carolyn Lovett's happy that she's made the right press statements, the president's situated, everybody's happy, they've got the cargo on board, they close the doors and they roll, and they'll be airborne right away. The other part is what you just said is so important. Now the planners have to get crazy because every single minute and detailed hour of that trip was planned out. The plan is gone. They have to make a new plan. They have to have everything arranged. So everybody on that airplane tonight is going to be working a full shift except for our president who needs his rest.
And is it possible that there's more to the story, but maybe we don't know about it for security reasons? Or do you buy that it is a minor electrical?
Well, I'm going to take the retail story, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to be calling just about every Air Force person I know in the morning to go, okay, what's going on?
Well, you got to let me and John know, and fill us in if you get, because you always have some good stuff. By the way, and I want to play this clip because he was going over to Greenland, and he gave a big, press conference today, which was extraordinary for 2 hours. He talked about all the accomplishments he had. And, of course, the reporters were all asking him about Greenland and what's ahead. I want to play this short little clip and get your reaction while I have you here, General Holt. Here it is.
Or are you willing to go to acquire Greenland?
You'll find out.
You'll find out. A typical Trump. I know. I laughed like you did, General Holt.
The thing is, and I'm going to steal a line that is so accurate from President of Czech Republic, Andrej Babiš. He said, I understand what President Trump's doing, because if you launch a hypersonic nuclear missile from Moscow to Washington, D.C., it'll take 26 minutes. From Greenland, it'll take 11. And he said, so I understand his concern. And it's like that, there you go, right there.
Right. Well, you look at on the map and the location, although it was interesting because President Trump also said, General Holt, that he thinks some deal will be done, that everyone will be happy. Sort of sounds like he's doing a little bit of his art of the deal negotiating, the realtor.
Working. It's already working. If you see the comments from Mark Rutte, the GenSec of NATO, or Macron, today they put out some social media. They were like, well, maybe we're hasty. We should work. We want to accommodate. We want to try to help this along. And so it's, the president can say big things, and that's his art of the deal negotiation style, where he says, yeah, they're the 51st state. We're taking it one way or another. And that's where the negotiation starts. And so where I think the president is aiming, we're going to control what happens in Greenland because this is our security and we mean it. Now, you tell us how you want to work that out, or we are taking it. And now they're understanding, we didn't really realize for the last 8 years we were in a negotiation, but apparently we are. And so I do think this is going to end happily ever after, but I think the president's going to achieve his goals.
Yeah, I think they'll be more likely towards the president's goals, maybe not fully, but more likely. Leaning definitely there, like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I think it'll be headed in his direction. It definitely seems that way.
It's a great place for the expansion team for the NFL, the Nuke Polar Bears. I am ready to welcome them into the league.
I hope they're better than the Giants and some of the others, right?
Exactly. Maybe the Giants will move up there.
Yeah, you never know. They may need to. They haven't been doing as well of late. Blaine Holt, thank you very much. It's really great to have you here, and we really appreciate you joining us, General, on this big breaking news. And again, you're a former aircraft, Air Force airline investigator, accidents, many of them through the years that you've looked at. So to have your great expertise at this breaking news is so appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. And everybody, we're going to continue with your calls after the break on this big news night here on the Rita Cosby Show, 1-800-848-9222. But first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a very powerful story from San Diego, California, where a century of service and sacrifice was celebrated at Mount Soledad National Veterans Memorial, where family, friends, and fellow veterans gathered to honor retired Major Robert Bartow on, get this, his 100th birthday. He is a decorated veteran who served in 3 wars, and he was recognized with a Quilt of Valor, an honor presented to service members who have dedicated their lives to the U.S. military. He began his military journey at just 15 years old, volunteering as a firefighter and mail carrier during World War II. He later joined the U.S. Marine Corps, and in 1945 was recommended for bravery during the Battle of Iwo Jima for evacuating wounded Marines under very heavy fire. After being honorably discharged, he enlisted in the Army Air Corps, where he piloted cargo planes during the Korean and Vietnam Wars. His daughter said he never wanted attention for any of his service. He always said, "That's just what we did." And of course, bravo to him and of all the great members of our greatest generation, and of course, their families too. And everybody, America's heroes need your help. Donate just $11 a month to the incredible Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Be sure to check them out at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
Wow, what a night it has been. President Trump again back at Joint Base Andrews, and will get on a new plane and head back towards Davos, Switzerland, after having to turn around due to what has been described by the White House as a minor electrical issue, a very extremely rare occurrence for that to happen. I don't think I've ever heard that happen in my career covering the White House ever, where Air Force One had to turn around. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Liz in Florida on line 1. Go ahead, Liz. Your thoughts tonight.
Hi, Rita. I have 2 separate comments for you. First, that was a great interview with General Holt. I'm a little concerned. No, I'm very concerned. When I first heard that the president's plane had to turn around because of some electrical problem, the first thing that came to my mind is, who are the mechanics working on that plane? And I was worried that maybe some of them might be anti-President Trump. Who knows?
Yes, you think of sabotage. You think of a whole bunch. You're right. You never know.
Right. I mean, that plane, Rita, should be in tip-top shape. I mean, things happen electrically, but I would hope this plane would be flawless.
Yeah, and by the way, and it should be flawless when you're dealing with the President of the United States. I mean, the one thing that General Holt reminded us is the plane is old. The 747 is about 40 years old, he was saying. So it may just be what it is, but we'll have more details tomorrow, guys, for sure.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to The Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.